They tend to focus on how to do it. And when you start with how, you're screwed. Like Martin Luther King had no idea how when he did his I Have a Dream speech. So you gotta find your reasons. But if you know what you want and you get a big enough why, now you'll figure out how to do it. One of the things you have to understand about life is everything changes and everything ends. And that kind of sounds heavy on the front end, but it's a truth. If everything changes and everything ends, number one, it should make you appreciate what you have right now. And then my view is what's next is always better. If I make it so, it's my job to make it so. And so I think, for me, I look at it and say, when you said genius is a young man's game, I think that's total. I think passion is the genesis of genius. If you've got enough passion, you're gonna find answers nobody else does, but most people run out of fuel, meaning they get tired, they get exhausted, they get burnt out, they get, the law of familiarity. They're around something so much, they take it a little bit for granted. And I've managed to see something in myself that I found in every great leader that I've ever respected, and that is, I value intelligence immensely, but I know really smart people can't fight their way out of a paper bag pragmatically, right? I'm sure you do too. What I see as the one common denominator of people that are successful over a lifetime is the sustained hunger. Hunger is the number one factor. We are made to grow. If we don't grow, it doesn't matter how much money you made, doesn't matter how many people gave you Academy Awards, stars on your chart. I mean, I get the phone calls from all these people who you would think have the greatest life in the world, and then they're calling me because it's not so great, because they haven't mastered the inner world. They're good at the outer world. But this one hasn't been given enough time or energy. They've been so focused out here, and they've done so well out here. Not so well in here. This is the one you want to do well on. You do well here, you can master the outside world too. You can handle anything. So for me, it really comes down to looking at it and saying, okay, if you and I are gonna have an extraordinary level of fulfillment, what's gonna make me grow? Because that's what's gonna make me proud. And to grow, you gotta face challenges. And I think the biggest problem most people have is, they think they shouldn't have problems.
Yes.
It's like, problems are a sign of life. Problems are what make you grow. Now, I'd rather call it a challenge. I'd rather look at it as a challenge and take it on as a challenge. But you and I both know.
Yeah.
I mean, I have grown so much in the last 24 months, taking 105 companies, some of which were literally shut down for 12 months, keeping them alive, not letting go of my employees, figuring a way to turn it around, figuring out how to adapt. I mean, I developed more skill and ability to help other people because I had to manage my own state, unbelievably so. I had to help other people manage their state. So without the challenge, would I grow so much? Probably not. People think they have to know how. I call it the tyranny of how. Like, you get all excited, I'm gonna do this, and then your brain goes, I've never done it before. Oh my God, what did I say? I don't know how to do this. And they tend to focus on how to do it. And when you start with how, you're screwed. Like, Martin Luther King had no idea how when he did his I Have a Dream speech. In fact, his wife was the one that pushed him because he was uncertain, right? If you know the real history, it's pretty interesting. But the bottom line is he gets up there and he gives his vision of how it can be done. He talked about what needs to happen and why. If you can figure out what you want and why you want it, and you get strong enough reasons that'll drive you late at night, it'll get you up early in the morning, and the reasons are different. Some people do it for nitty-gritty reasons. Jim Rohn used to say, because some guy told him he borrowed money from this finance company, I forget the name of HFC Finance, whatever the hell it was, and he hadn't been back since he borrowed the money, and so they're calling him. In those days, they could harass you in ways they can't today, right? They'd call him, show up, and embarrass him in front of his neighbors. And so Jim Rohn, his first real chunk of money, he told me he made because it's like, he set this goal. It was his nitty-gritty reason. His reason to get rich was so he could go down and pay this thing off. And he said he went to the bank and got it all in cash and in small bills, and he bolted into this little HFC, finance place. And the guy who borrowed the money was the fourth best back. And he said, I walked up there, I opened up this brief, and I dumped all the money all over his desk in small bills. And I said, count it, it's all there, I will never be back. He said he was startled because I hadn't been there since I borrowed the money, right? But he did it for nitty-gritty. Some people do it for their kid. Some people will do it, we'll almost all do it for something more than ourselves. Some people do it because they like winning, right? I know that about you. Right? It's like, I like winning. I like being the best at what I do. So I'm not going to settle for less than that. Why would I? Right? So you got to find your reasons. But if you know what you want and you get a big enough why, now you'll figure out how to do it. But if you start with how, The small brain, the fear brain, goes, oh shit, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do 90% of the time either. I know what and why, and then I try something. It doesn't work, I try something else, and I'll do something else. Now I speed it up by learning from the best. So that's why, Money Master the Game is a perfect example. My companies, at the time were $100 million companies. I had one $500 million company. Now we're doing $7 billion. I took what I learned from these guys, I applied it not only to my investing, I applied it to my own businesses. Why do I reinvent the wheel when I just learned from the best on earth? I mean, somebody's that good can tell you that little 2 millimeter thing that changes everything. So my life is really about learn from the best, but I don't start with the how. I start with the what and the why. And I think that's the mistake most people make. Momentum is everything, right? The hardest part in life is creating momentum. So when that all happened, I had built something of momentum over, 40 years, literally at that point, around the world. And, what do you do all of a sudden when, suddenly they say you can't do an event with more than 10 people and you've got 15,000 people scheduled to take over the stadium.
Jeez.
And you know what I did? I went, we're going to Vegas. They're never going to shut down Vegas, right? But then they shut down Vegas. I was like, I know I'm going to rent a church, a mega church from a buddy of mine in Houston, 15,000 people. They're not going to keep Costco open and shut down the church. They kept Costco open and shut down the church. So I got to the point where it's like, what do you do? And when you think there's nothing you can do, that's when you can do something. When you think I don't know what to do, that's when you know what to do if you just push yourself. And so I was like, I pulled my team together. I saw a guy do like a webinar with 252-inch screens, and I said, I'll kill myself first. I said, I got to create an experience for people. They need it desperately, wherever they are in the world. So literally I pulled out a tape recorder, like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 20-foot high LED screens, 50 feet wide, highest resolution in the world, 0.67, 50 degrees, 180 degrees around me, around the back. I'm going to call my buddy Eric Yon, and I'm going to see if Zoom, we can expand him from the little 1,000 to 20,000 or 30,000. I'm going to hire a firm to create an app so they can shake it so it sends a signal and you can hear reality of people clapping, because the more shake it, the louder it gets. And I just started creating the whole thing in an hour there. So when I was done, my CFO says, Tony, after he saw all the numbers, it was over 20 million bucks by the time we're done. He's like, Tony, should we rent some of this first? And I said to him, listen, first of all, you can't. I said, go do your best. Not what I'm looking for. I said, second of all, this is going to be this way for a while. Yeah. And we're going to use this to help more people. And that, when things go back to normal, we get to go do that too. And I just did a date with Destiny where I had, 10,000 people from 97 countries. And then I had 500 people in front of me because I built the studio so that there's 40-foot high ceilings, so I could literally lift the 20-foot screen. And so now I have a hybrid event. People that want to come personally, I'm there. People that want to be in the middle of the night in some other country are able to participate. But all that comes from just taking action and momentum. Yeah. If you build momentum, you can accomplish anything. You've seen it in sports. You see a team that's dominating and then somebody steals the ball and the momentum changes. Yeah. Your job right now is to create momentum. And that's why I'm building this challenge, is basically to say to you, let's do a breakthrough for you right now so you know it's real. Let's get you to get a real result. Let's get you to shift yourself physically and mentally and emotionally so you can build that momentum, because it takes so much energy to rocket out of the atmosphere. It takes very little to take it out of the solar system. So that momentum, I think, is critical.
You do make a difference. There is something they would lose if you were not there. There was something that they would miss if you were not there. You do make a difference.